Hey, you're listening to A Chat with Heart. I'm your host, Christina Martin. I'm a singer-songwriter, curious human. I live on a dirt road in rural Nova Scotia with my partner in crime, Dale, and our calico cat, Olivia. This podcast is basically just me chatting with people I admire. I like to ask questions that feed my curiosity, and my guests have all taught me something. They either crack me up or they punch me right in the feels. If you've got questions, comments, or a burning desire to join the conversation, please call my Heartbeat hotline, day or night. It's 1-902-669-4769. You can also email me at christinamartinmusic@gmail.com. And if you want to throw a little love my way and help keep this thing going, visit my Patreon page. That's how artists like me get paid. Thanks for showing up. Warning, heartfelt content ahead. If we just talk about it, we could shine a light, we could break a dark day. If we just talk about it, we can cut away, we can make a brighter day. Hey friends, welcome back to A Chat with Heart. It's Christina here, coming to you from our little spot in rural Nova Scotia, where the weather can't quite decide what it wants to be. Well, right now it is storming, and our heat pump, our brand new heat pump, has decided to retire after just 1 week of being installed, which honestly feels appropriate because life was going just a little too good to be true. And, something had to give. So if it's the new heating and cooling system, then fine, take it. We have decorated for the season. It's now December here. How about you? Better question, what do you love or dislike about December? Call my Heartbeat hotline and let me know anytime. Anytime you hear this. What's your favorite thing about December? Good memories from the past, new traditions, or are you just having the worst time? Is this the worst time of the year for you, and why? I'm curious because I was someone who did not like anxiety was just building up. I just did not like this time of year. And I think I've mentioned this before in previous episodes, but things have changed. I'm now looking forward to it. I like decorating. I can't believe I'm saying this. We've carved out time for family and friends, and I look forward to it. Yeah. And it's very we have a lot of fake Christmases. Fake Christmases are the ones that happen not on the actual December 25th. And I'm kind of used to that. When I was a kid, my parents were separated. And so we had many different Christmases at the grandparents and at mom's and then at dad's, and a lot of traveling. And so we just learned to kind of go with the flow. And, it was all kind of exciting, I suppose. Yeah. So anyway, call my Heartbeat hotline. The number's at the beginning of the podcast and at the end. And let me know what you love about this time of year, December, and what you don't like, or what you don't like. Music update, because that's what I do in every intro. And that is what I do. That is, I've come around to accept. That is, I am a singer-songwriter. I write songs and I sing. Two of my favorite things. The third thing would be recording music with my best friend Dale, who also edits the podcast. Puts it all together in the end. So yeah, I do these music updates. And it also reminds me I need to get my shit together and rehearse. And it helps me stay excited. Okay, so the new holiday single, Sex, Drugs, and Christmas Time, is out in the world. I hope it brings you a grin, or at the very least makes you feel something in the chaos of December. It's definitely, I think, a little different than most holiday songs. Certainly more different than any other holiday song I've written, and this was number 5. We've got 5 holiday songs out there now. almost enough to do an album. The video. We did a video. We shot a video. It was so much fun. The video is coming out very soon. I'm just waiting on the edit. And let me tell you, folks, it is a fun one. The shoot was epic. Probably one of the funnest parties I've ever been to. Even though I was working, technically. And that's all I'm going to tell you for now. But I will stay in tune and in touch on either my Patreon, that's where my mailing list is, or my social media, mostly Instagram. I've sort of given up on Facebook. I don't do Twitter. I don't do Snapchat or what do you call it? TikTok? Right. That. I've never done that. But my main thing is Patreon, as you know. And I guess Instagram. So stay tuned. I've been posting some photos from the shoot on my Instagram, and they are awesome. Okay, I've got a couple of my absolute favorite shows to perform at coming up. And one of these hasn't even been announced yet, but I think it's okay to let you know. There's a winter warmer coming up. This is a matinee show every Saturday during the winter season. It's at the Marquee Ballroom or do they call it the Ballroom anymore? It'll always be the Marquee Ballroom in my heart. In Halifax, Nova Scotia, on Gottingen Street. It's an iconic venue. And what Rankin McInnes has built with these winter warmers is nothing short of a miracle, amazing, fantastic service to the community. You know what's funny? My phone just dinged, and it's actually a text message from my special guest today on the podcast. You might hear it ding again in a second. Okay, so back to the winter warmers. So these are matinee shows, all ages, and they are all packed, jam-packed. The Marquee is packed every Saturday matinee. I think the season passes might be sold out. And anyway, I'm so excited to be invited back to perform December 20th, to perform a couple songs. It'll be the first time I'll be performing the new single with the full band, Sex, Drugs, and Christmas Time. And then we'll probably do a cover. So I'm so thrilled about that. And I don't know, you'll have to check, but maybe you can get tickets at the door. I have no idea. But that's exciting. The other big show this winter that I'm announcing here now is I'll be one of the performers at the Big Shiny Tunes in Halifax, again at the Marquee, February 6th and 7th. Now, I've done this twice, at this performance, 2 years in a row. And it is it's just a total blast. It's, again, jam-packed. These are all songs that people are familiar with, so they're singing along. The audience is totally into it. There's sweat dripping from the ceiling. I mean, if you want a party, this is the one you want to go to. No kids are welcome at this one. It's 19 plus. Go get your tickets. You can go to my website. I don't know. I think they're on Ticket Pro. But just go to my website and click through, get your tickets for either or both, February 6th and 7th. Pure joy. I cannot wait to perform and see everybody. And we should be announcing the Germany tour dates soon, but I'm not quite ready. So this is me cryptically saying something exciting is coming, but also please don't ask me for dates yet because I'm not ready to post them. Okay. Today's guest, who's been texting me while I'm doing this intro, where do I even begin? I thought I met Laura Simpson at Music Nova Scotia first, but I also have this vivid memory of meeting her and her husband Scott at a party in Halifax. Maybe we get to the bottom of that in this episode. All I know is that at some point she walked into my life or I walked into hers, and I have been grateful ever since. If you're a musician or music industry person listening, chances are you have your own Laura stories. When I first met her, she was the friendliest, kindest, most curious face greeting you at Music Nova Scotia. And then when she became the funding program manager, let me tell you, she made you feel She made me feel like she wanted nothing more than for you to get that grant. She helped me strengthen my application until she believed it was the strongest it could be. And she never made me feel like I was wasting her time. And she always made my submission feel urgent and important. And yet she told me something once I've never forgotten. She said, there are no music emergencies. And that really stuck with me because what I heard was, look, I mean, this is important and all that, but listen, if you're healthy, you have people who love you, and you're not hurting anybody else, you're okay. You win some, you lose some. Keep growing, adapting, but don't sacrifice your health like for any of it, mental or physical. And that really helped me out. That sort of it became like a little bit of a mantra that it still benefits me to this day whenever I, might get worked up about something. And it kind of puts things in perspective, to have these gems of like mantras in your back pocket. Laura has been one of the biggest champions of live music in our region across Canada, I would say North America. As the co-founder and CEO of Side Door, she's built bridges between artists, audiences, unconventional venues, and those magical moments that only happen when people gather for live music. And during the pandemic, Side Door was there for artists in a way I'll personally never forget. Side Door helped us pivot, survive, earn income, stay connected. And Laura and co-founder Dan Magnan were at the source, the core of that. And there are many, many accolades. But Laura is one of those people you're just simply better for knowing. She's a trusted friend, an amazing mother and partner, one of the best advice givers I've ever met. And something about her makes you feel safe and seen. It's almost suspicious, but no, it's just Laura Simpson. Well, here's a little bit of a short and sweet official bio for Laura Simpson. Okay, Laura is an entrepreneur, and she co-founded Side Door in 2017 with Dan Magnan. She's a graduate of Queen's University and the University of King's College, Bachelor of Journalism. Her favorite food is coconut shrimp. It's her husband Scott's secret recipe. Her headquarters are Halifax, Nova Scotia, a place I love and know well. She's also a fellow dual citizen of Canada and the United States. That's right, we both share that fun fact. Laura has spent her career questioning the status quo, supporting artists, building community, and creating new pathways for live performance, whether in backyards, bookstores, or virtual spaces across the globe. And now, forever and ever, she's here on A Chat with Heart. Let's get into it. Here's a cozy conversation, the first actually from my home office in Port Howe, Nova Scotia, with the wonderful Laura Simpson. Welcome to A Chat with Heart podcast.
Oh my God.
And today we're in Mexico.
Hilarious. Diego.
You know what? I actually rarely talk about music on my podcast.
I was gonna say, like, it's pretty amazing the breadth that you cover when you do these.
It's not very specific, is it?
No, it's great.
That was what I was going for. Other than great, but not specific. Everyone said, you got to get specific.
No, I was going to say, like, your specificity is in this podcast, I think, is just your style and of interviewing and what you care about, which is making a blanket fort and
that's what we did.
Sitting on the floor, and maybe we'll have a Ouija board, and that is a vibe.
We will get the Ouija board. Most people are terrified. I've had people tell me that I need to burn it, which I think is probably the last thing you should do with a Ouija board.
Oh, yeah.
But like some people are like, I'm not coming over if you have that.
I'm in.
Okay.
I'm so in.
Okay, cool.
I've had experiences.
You have? It's never worked for me.
Not with the Ouija board, but I've had real trippy otherworldly experiences.
Well, this is what we're here for. Welcome to A Chat with Heart podcast. I want to get your weird, wonderful, wacky experience. What happened?
Do you want to start in the middle?
Yes.
I love starting in the middle.
Yes, please.
Okay. Wow, I don't think I've ever told this story on the record, but I have told this story many times. And I think it's okay to tell it. Maybe I won't say the person's name, but there is a...
Wait, do you hear that?
Yes, I do hear that.
It's like a popping.
Yeah, I do hear that.
Wait. Oh, it's the metronome.
Wait, where's the metronome?
It's so stupid. I just turned it off. Don't worry about it.
In the recording? Oh, we had a click. We were talking to a click.
We were actually recording to a click, which is so typical of how I record all my songs and all my podcasts. Yeah, and if you don't talk to the click, that means you're not a very good guest.
I'm suddenly like way too warmed.
It's getting hot and heated, and we almost got started.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Well,
then
let's start.
interrupted.
I'll just
What happened? What? Okay. Welcome. Okay. Welcome to a Chat with Heart podcast, and I'm delighted to have you back. Technically, because you were featured on an episode we did where we were spotlighting house concerts, and so I don't even remember what we talked about. I'm assuming we talked about
probably
house concerts.
Yeah.
But this is now we get to dig into you and your desire to become a male person, or we will get into that.
M-A-I-L.
Oh, I don't know if that's what you want to do, then that's great.
I just want to be specific that I'm not transitioning.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I fully support you if you want to do that.
Yeah,
I
think it would be. I think I would be good at that.
Do you think that had you grown up? I ask this because I'm curious about other people, because I think I know what my answer would be. But if you grew up in a time when it was quite common for, friends to be just not, I'm not a boy or a girl, and maybe they want to transition or whatever. Do you think like you would have been fallen into that where you're like, yeah, I don't know if I'm a boy or a girl either, or I feel like, what do you think?
Oh, I super embrace the gender fluidity of today and the future that I see unfolding before us. Like I had a brother, we both had brothers, and I think having a brother is you kind of always have this balance in your household that you always see the other things, and in my household there was never an othering of those things. There was never like, this is a boy thing and this is a girl thing. It was actually quite just like, these are things. And I always played sports, and like he was in drama, and like there was a lot of crossover. So I always hung out with guys actually for a long time. I had a really hard time figuring out women and female relationships for a long, long time. So yeah, I feel like I mean, I've never gotten to a point where I felt uncomfortable in my own body and I needed to be in a different body, but I know lots of people who have transitioned, and I can understand those feelings. And so, yeah, I think it's a really interesting time actually to watch, because I think this is just a very outsider perspective, but I think a lot of reasons that people transition is because of the social forces at play for, eons of just pressures to be one thing or another. And I really kind of hope and look forward to a time when people can just be whoever the fuck they want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And pass. Passed the test. And that's the question I ask everybody on a Chat with Heart podcast. And I'm happy to have you back. And before we were interrupted by the click track, you were about to start telling me about your supernatural experience, perhaps? I'm not sure. What happened? What happened? We were talking about Ouija.
Yep.
Then what?
So grew up in not a religious family. Also a lot of skepticism around supernatural things and spirits and the afterlife and stuff like that. However, I remember early on, like my mom mentioning things about like hearing her mom talk to her on the ferry, for example, after she died, and sort of these experiences that were like she almost told me in secret. Meanwhile, when I was growing up, I always felt like I had like instances where I felt mostly negative spirits around, and like I've always felt like my house when I grew up was haunted, and had a lot of like scary things where I would have to have all these things in place to get into bed and sleep and feel safe and stuff. Anyway, that kind of passed, and I had all, like a lot of weird nightmares, and anyway, but it never got to a point where I felt as an adult that like I kind of just got through that, like being a scared kid. But then as an adult, I had one significant experience that was a well-known artist. Her mom lived on the street across the street from us. And so we knew her as a neighbor. And so this artist and her mom were around a lot, and her mom got sick.
Oh, I know this story.
Oh, I did tell you the story?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I love this story.
Yeah.
But let's keep going.
So,
let's make it public.
So it was just like, I mean, it still is amazing to me that it happened. But anyway, her mom got sick. We hadn't seen each other for a while. And then I had a dream about her mom. But it was like a really vivid dream. And it was like a maze that I was going through. It was almost like different scenes. And then at the end was her mother in a bed with a purple blanket, and she just like had this message for her family of just like love and care. And I woke up and felt the need immediately to draw it. So I got the kids' huge piece of drawing paper out and I drew it at like 5 a.m. and then took a picture of it and sent it to the artist and was like, I know your mom's not in a great way right now, and I just want to say I dreamt about her, and I always think it's important to share when you dream about someone, because I think it just at the very least means you're thinking about them, which is what I wanted to say. I was like, I'm thinking about you.
Yeah.
I drew this weird thing.
Yes.
And she was like, yeah, my mom died last night and she had a purple blanket on.
Wow.
Yeah.
I loved her mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
that's an incredible experience.
Yeah, it was incredible. And also when I went to the memorial, it was at Point Pleasant Park, there was relatives coming up to me saying like, we heard the story and we actually feel like she might have, like they actually believe that she might have chosen me to speak through because I was like adjacent to the family but not immersed in the grieving process, and could like be open and hear a message and pass along a message. And I was just like, dude, I'm not ready for this responsibility.
It's a big job. It could be a full-time job. It is for some people, I think.
But yeah, I do know people who are like, that is kind of their jam. And anyway, I guess I just didn't feel like that was a real thing until I experienced that. And then I was like, there's really no other explanation for what happened other than this interconnectedness of people in some way before and after living. I don't know. I still don't know what that means, but I don't have any clue. But that just was a story that has sat with me.
It's beautiful, though. Yeah. Have you had any similar experiences? Like, is that the only one you've had as an adult? Or do you think you've had other ones, like even when you were younger, where you're like, oh, I think that's what that was?
Yeah. Yeah,
when
definitely.
you say like negative, did those come in the form of like kind of like night terrors?
My son had night terrors. I did not. And man, yeah, the night terrors are crazy. But I had like waking, walking, talking situations. Like when you're asleep, but you're like look like you're awake kind of thing, and just kind of doing things. There was a lot of that. But when I was aware, I just remember being afraid. I remember feeling like there was people in my room all the time, the people under my bed all the time. Like I had this whole thing. I had to have the radio on all the time in order to sleep. And if I woke up in the middle of the night, I had to have like a certain path I would follow to make sure I wasn't caught by the arms of the spirits that were around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of like,
I'm saying, yeah, because like I can relate.
you can relate to that?
Yeah, there's a song on my last record that's called Inside the Mirror. It's a song I wrote as a sort of a way to kind of come to terms with my, I guess, childhood. It was a very traumatic experience I had, but how it kind of, evolved was when I was probably, I would say some of my earliest memories with this happening in my childhood home in Fredericton. I was probably 6, maybe. And I would go to bed and I thought I was still awake, and it seemed like everything would get really quiet in the house. And I don't know where everybody else was. Like my 2 brothers I grew up with, my mom and my dad, like I'm assuming they were asleep. And I would hear a door open in the back, downstairs, in the back of the house, and then footsteps. And then the footsteps would come up the stairs towards my room. Was the only room at the top of the stairs on the left. And then, so I would hear these footsteps and this thing would come up the stairs, and it was always a little bit different. It happened a lot, quite frequently. And it always felt like I was wide awake. Sometimes I would fall asleep and wake up. I thought I was awake, and I would hear the door open and the footsteps come. And this thing would be in my room. And I would be terrified. So I'd have my eyes shut, and I would hold the covers up over my eyes and just kind of try to slow down my breathing and be really quiet, as if like I could be hiding from it. But I knew it was kind of coming for me in my room, and sometimes it would just sit on the bed and wait and breathe.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it was pretty. And then other times it would come close and like grab my arm, but it wouldn't hurt me, but it would like squeeze it.
Dang.
I could hear it breathing sometimes and like looking over me.
Dang.
And then going away, and I could hear the footsteps like going away. And then I would kind of lay awake for a while until I'd fall asleep. That was, and maybe I was asleep, I don't know, but that was my vivid memory. It was quite a physical reaction too. And then we moved houses eventually, and I thought, oh great, this is done. But there was one night I woke up from bed, from a night terror, and I sat up, and I felt like the room felt like it felt back when it happened in the other house. And I could hear these footsteps from the sort of hallway they had sort of like a quarter of the house that was where the housemaids used to live. And so there was a staircase back there, and I could hear the steps, something coming up the stairs, and then coming around to my room, came in, reached over, grabbed my arm, and then walked away and had this heavy breathing thing. And then it never happened again. That was the last time. But I wrote this song. Wow. And it was sort of like this, after growing up and having gone to therapy at times in my life and done a lot of personal work and read tons of self-help books and going to school and studying mind and brain and all this and trauma and thinking, like this just sort of, maybe that whatever that was just having a rough go and needed someone to talk to. So this song it's like, what if I'd offered him coffee now?
Wow.
And what if we'd just gone and had a chat? And
wow.
What if I'd just kind of taken my covers down and been like, are you okay? Because like you're breathing really heavy on me, buddy. Like, what's your deal?
That's such a mature lens on that experience.
Well, every time I sing it, I think of it, and I think it makes me feel like the caregiver, but I honestly, like, maybe if I would have taken down my covers, if this was a real thing, like maybe it could have like eaten me alive.
Right.
So
right.
I don't know.
The fear in the moment is just disallows you from doing anything like that. That's the thing.
So it was crazy. It was wild, but it was always very specific. Were yours different in how they kind of came to be each time? Like, Or was it always kind of like
there was always something under the bed. I had to, like, I remember I had a mat next to my bed, and I actually never touched the mat to get into bed. I would leap.
Oh, I do this too now.
You do?
Do you still do this? Like at night?
No,
when it's dark?
the house I live in now, I remember because when I had babies, I would be up at night walking around with them, trying to get them to sleep. And I remember feeling like this house is very safe.
Oh, good. Okay.
So I don't feel that way now at all. There are times when I feel that way in other people's houses. When I can really freak myself out, really, really freak myself out. But it's, yeah, it's like what you say. It's like there's a regular instance of how it kind of goes down. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess you could sort of look back and think, like, did I have an experience that I've buried that is recurring in my mind or something? I don't know, but
there is that people, whenever I've told this story to friends, they're like, what happened to you? Like, I do actually have a childhood trauma that, I mean, maybe that was the spark of it, but hard to say.
It's hard to say. And I think also, like, okay, let's pretend like it is something in your brain.
Yeah.
It would also be interesting if you pulled the covers down and confronted it.
Well, and I did that as an adult just to sort of rewrite the story.
Right.
Do you ever do that where you just like, I'm just going to like, I can't seem to not live with this version. So I'm just going to reframe. You're reframing it.
Right.
You're rewriting it. So, and that does seem to help. So going back to, do you really want to be a MAIL person? Like, do you really want to work for the post office?
I always wanted to carry the mail and just walk around. And actually, because I got to do it today, I was
Explain
delighted.
That today.
I volunteer at the food bank, and when Canada Post went on strike, they had to, their main campaign is right now. And so they had all the volunteers kind of take the mail and deliver it to the people that usually would send in money. And so I just took my dog around our neighborhood and delivered a bunch of mail, and it was really nice. And I met a bunch of people. And
why don't you apply to Canada Post?
I think that they're in peril.
Oh, yeah, they're not doing too good.
It's not good, but I think the thing is that I love the idea of
mail, like
just carrying.
I think the cat wants to come in. Just
the cat does want to come in.
Okay, Libby, I'm coming. I hold that thought. I didn't mean to interrupt, but the cat, come on, sweetie. Good girl. Good
priorities.
Girl. She even brought her toy.
Oh my God!
I'll show you. She dragged this over because she wants us to play with it.
Oh,
sweetie, come on, here. No, there you go.
What's this? What is this?
There you go.
It's over here. Now it's over here. Now it's over here. Now it's over here. Now it's over here. Oh, it's over here. Oh.
Little Heartbeat listeners, Olivia is now in the room. Have we described how we've set up the room? This is a first for a Chat with Heart podcast. We do have sometimes people come by the house to do the sessions, but Laura and I are in my office upstairs on the floor with pillows and cushions, and pillows are cushions, and blankies, and now the kitty cat, Olivia, is here with us, and Laura
We're
is
having a cozy time.
Playing with her. Mm-hmm. And she's no longer interested. Mail. You have always wanted to deliver it?
Well, don't you have a job in your mind that is like your, like kind of a blue collar job? It was
working at the post office.
It was?
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because my dad sold collectible stamps to people all over the world. And every day we would go to the post office.
Yeah.
And I remember being young and going into this beautiful big, like they're always beautiful buildings.
Yes.
And this was in Fredericton. They have a gorgeous post office there. And looking through the little windows in the boxes and wondering who's that person behind there
on the other side.
Yeah, that brings all these gifts and puts all these, and my dad would get money in the mail from work, and I always thought this is so cool. We come here, we get money We bring things, we were sending them all over the world. Like, how cool is that? I was fascinated by it. But yes.
Yeah, I think it's so, the state of the postal, I mean, it's like, it's funny, actually, back to the food bank, like the people are like, well, why do we even need the postal service? Well, people who don't have homes and people who don't have access to internet or computers or phones need the mail to get information, to get their checks, to get whatever. And so we often at the food bank are recipients of this mail. And so when the Canada Post was on strike, it was like a real problem for people who are living on the streets or just in compromised situations. And so, you know, like on one side, I'm like, yeah, nobody uses the mail anymore. Everybody has online banking and like whatever. But at the same time, I'm witnessing real issues with this. So yeah, I mean, like if Canada Post continues, I would totally, like, I can definitely imagine just that's my job, is like doing whatever needs. And I know a ton of musicians who ended up working for Canada Post or other delivery situations, because I think it's pretty complementary to, you know, the intensity of the kind of work that we end up doing. It's just like moving through space and time. It's very tactical. You're following the rules, and you know, it's great.
What did you want to be when you were a kid?
Oh, for a while, I think I really focused on being a writer, and I still would consider that my craft of choice, even though I went into radio eventually. But writing is a real, like, I still fall back on that.
It's a good fallback.
Yeah. And it's not really like necessarily a profession. It's more of like a tool for various professions. I also, like, when I got into journalism, was pretty focused on, like, I wanted to be like a foreign correspondent. Like, I was kind of obsessed with wars in the Middle East and just the news in general when I was a kid. When I was when kids were putting posters of like New Kids on the Block on the wall, I was putting news clippings.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like war torn areas. You were just putting posters.
Well, it was kind of, it was like news clippings of like what was happening in the world. I was kind of obsessed with, and it was early days of when they started, CNN started, like Wolf Blitzer was over in Iraq and just, you know, live streaming missiles and stuff. And I was like, I remember at that point feeling really troubled by this as something that would be okay to watch on TV.
Right.
And also, I think it kind of made me feel like I would love to do this with care. I would love to be able to report on what's happening with care. And because I just felt like in some instances that was happening, but in others it was just like, it felt like we were creating entertainment out of other people's horrors. And so I was kind of obsessed with it. It's actually, when I met my husband, I was like, you know, kind of anti-establishment at the time. And it was like, well, what if I want to be a foreign correspondent? And he was like, well, we'll figure it out. And I was like, okay, you're a keeper. So, so I didn't do that. But like, I remember early days, like, yeah, thinking about telling people stories.
Yeah.
Interpreting the world, observing. I was very into climbing trees and just like sitting there and watching the world, like very kind of background, omniscient narrator position, I think. Yeah.
Would you, like, there's still a lot of wars going on. Would you want to get back into that, do you think?
I do think about going back into journalism.
We do need
but
good journalists.
I don't think that the institutions that are currently in play, I mean, there's some really good crowdsourced journalism sources, but they're not the mainstream anymore. Like, the mainstream are very problematically owned and run. Like, I just feel like it's fair, and there's a lot of hatred of the media. There's a lot of just like grouping the media into a capital M, like the media is doing all this, and it's just blatantly, it's just not true. Like, there's just individual people doing things. yeah, we need it more than ever, but the respect for it and the desire for it, I don't think is there anymore. So I think we have to practice helping people do critical thinking in other ways.
Yeah.
You know, I think actually artists do a lot of that. I think artists are really good at that. I think artists do soft facilitation and critical thinking.
Yeah, this is a good point. I think artists should continue. Oftentimes I've thought, oh God, I'm not doing enough and blah, blah, blah. And I just think if you can write something, whether it doesn't have to be a song, if you can make something, and if you keep making things, there'll be a reflection of the time or something. There's got to be something will come through, at least one of those pieces that you put out there. And that's enough. That can be enough. That can be a representation of your experience. And it's not, I wrote a song. I've never talked about this, but there's a song on my last album, Storm. It's called Stay With Me. And there's a line in the song that is, what is the line? You know how it's hard to, unless you start from the beginning of the song, and I'm not going to sing the whole song. I'm not even going to sing. But I can't make all these things that he's done go away. And there were two, at that time when I was finishing up the song, Donald Trump was in power in the United States. And I was thinking of Donald Trump, but I was also thinking of the things that my father had done that caused people a lot of pain, that had caused me pain. And so I just, that was just one thing I remember from writing that song, and most of the song I don't remember, but years go by, years later, and I think back now when I sing that song, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm not a very outwardly politically vocal person. I try to be a good person, and I vote in the U.S. and in Canada because I was born in the States, and
same.
I try to. Love is one of the most important things to me, and expressing that. And here we are, Chat with Heart podcast. But I'm not great at talking about politics. I'm just good about talking about heart and trying do the best you can. And I think back and I go, well, actually, I guess that was a little political statement in there, or my own opinion of somebody in this power position. Whether it be Trump or my father in that case, and doing something so horrible that, and it's really hard to take that back. And now we have to just work with what we've got and move forward kind of thing. So all that to say, I agree with you completely. It's when you are a creative person doing anything, that's your voice. And it doesn't have to say a lot, but the little things. I was interviewing Mary Janet McDonald today and learning about what she does and what she puts out in the world, and how she just reverberates love and kindness. And I think people like that, they may not be like Dolly Parton, that keeps politics out of stuff, but her actions speak so loud.
Exactly.
And so the point of my story is,
you don't have to communicate through words sometimes.
That's right. I just actually was going to stop talking and let the silence. Right. But I love talking to people like you, because that, people like you are out there fighting the good fight. And it may not always seem or feel political, but it is. It's just acts of love and trying to do the right thing for your community. So props to you.
Well, think about that feeling in that experience you had where you're maybe I could just offer this scary thing a coffee.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot in that. And
do you think we should offer Donald Trump a coffee? I don't even know if he drinks coffee.
I'm a pretty deep believer in you really have to employ all the possible measures to get to the desired end, ethically, of course, but it's not worth saving your ego or your alliances in order to prolong a really difficult situation. Like, I would rather give some ground in order to find some common ground than hold so tightly to a position that nothing moves. And I think songs do a good job of that. I think art does a good job of that because it's so interpreted by the audience that you're kind of, it's an offering, like a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
You know, I love, by the way, that you secretly just tossed the toy for Olivia. You're like, I need to be a good mom and let her play.
I have to pay attention to both you, my guest, and my child. She really is like my child. But I'm telling you, the twisted pipe cleaner from Dollarama, I've got a bag of like 50 of these for $2.
Yeah, best cat toy ever.
Loves this. Listen, I'm telling you.
Her eyes are like saucers.
Oh, she just can't get enough of these. We have so many expensive toys for her. And then, do you think if we locked Donald Trump in a room with the cutest kittens in the world, like there would be a shift in him?
Well, I don't know. Like, you know, I think part of the reason I've worked on my own for a long time is that I didn't enjoy working for megalomaniacs who, and no disrespect to previous managers or bosses, but, and no one specific, but like when people are given positions of power and that power corrupts their ethics and decision making, and probably that was happening before and maybe has always happened because that was their life. I don't know how you can pull them back out of the water sometimes. Like, I actually don't know if it's worth doing that, but I think it is worthwhile focusing on something good alongside, adjacent, beside, you know, just like
until the time passes where that
well,
thing
you know
is
what's I think what is really interesting that's happening right now is this movement of absurdity in protest, where like in Portland, people are dressing up in like insane like costumes and out there protesting because it creates this element of like, how can you shoot rubber bullets at Pokemon, right? It just creates this absurd moment when hopefully people start to question what's happening. And that's really what you want. You want a break in the conviction so that questioning can happen and critical thinking can happen.
Oh, like the California, not premier, but what do you call the state people who are...
The governor?
Yeah, that's what he is. The governor started acting like Trump on his social media in order to prove a point, and but it was so absurd, the things he was saying, and he didn't mean any of them.
Right.
I'm saying all this, but I hear it through Dale. Like, I don't actually follow.
Well, and I think that's also part of it, is that I think like I used to follow the news like a soap opera because I was in it. I was in the daily news, and then I realized how toxic that can be to you. And so I think people like really do need to monitor how much they're consuming, because you don't get a medal for knowing these things at all. It kind of just makes you feel worse about things. So unless you are actively able to do something about the stuff you're learning.
This is what I tell people. If you're not going to do anything, then why are you bothering?
Why are you obsessing over this thing? It's really not helpful.
Yeah.
It's really unhelpful. Even at the grassroots level, I was talking about this recently at Nova Scotia Music Week. You know, there's sometimes in our culture out east here is to gossip about shit going down and to sort of like...
Oh, yeah, I was going to actually gossip with Scott and you earlier. We got interrupted, but I have some serious... I'll tell you later, not on the podcast. But yeah, I was totally going to gossip.
Well, there's always gossip, right? Yeah. There's always gossip because we're a pretty small community.
Yeah, and
it's
sort of
like
the
extended family, you know,
it's
like
the entertainment sort of in the neighborhood. Really, we don't have cable.
Yeah.
So,
but like I've participated just like the other guy, but at the same time, like I just said to someone over the weekend that I was just like, you know, I worry about the toxicity of that, even because it's a similar thing of just like watching the news and complaining about it. It's like, you know, listening to the gossip and just feeling shitty about it. It's just like, well,
I say 5% gossip in your life is fine. Like
5%.
5%. Like
it's so small.
I know, right? And if it's like good storytelling, and
it's a good story,
and reminds people that there are absurd things still happening in the world. Like I'm all for that. And there's an element too of debriefing that is, I think, essential, like in work, or maybe it is in your friend circles. You just sort of like, you need that moment sometimes to debrief. Yeah. Even but have that, also have the understanding. Don't, you know, as long as it's not like one-sided. So if you can gossip, but also see that, you know, there is another side to this, and there's probably some sad shit going on, or that it's not all just like a blame game. Right. Then I think it's healthy.
Yeah, I think it's healthy too. Well, it is in a way like you're basically putting something on the table and saying, "What do you think about this?"
Yeah. So it's conversation as opposed to, and it goes a little deeper than maybe small talk. You know.
Yeah.
Small talk isn't horrible.
It's horrible. It's actually horrible. I actually start conversations with bombs to see who's going to stay with me.
Yeah, you know who's really good at that is David Sedaris.
Yes,
he's all about. Fan. Yeah, he's actually taught me to think hard about the questions you ask people. You know, like when you're in a cab or something, riding to the airport, like instead of just how was your day, like you know, how do you deal with the customers in your vehicle when they piss in your back seat? That kind of.
Dang.
Yeah. I didn't ask you that when you first showed up at my house, but
those would be the teenagers.
Yeah, exactly. Ouch. Olivia's getting cozy. Look at that. We have a little bed for her now.
That is my other job desire.
What?
To drive an Uber, but I want to call it the Moober.
The Moober?
Yeah, because I'm the mom Uber.
Oh,
and so that I just, when my kids or anybody else in their circle calls an Uber, I actually show up.
Okay, yeah.
So that I can hear the gossip and also just keep tabs on them and drive them around.
I think that's wise. And you're making money at the same time.
Yeah, I'll still charge them.
Yeah, and hopefully they'll tip you well. But look at this. She's just, I want to be an Uber, but for cats.
Oh my God. Where would they want to go?
Well, they should. You know, people don't like.
They don't
make cat dates. Oh. My mom's cat and our cat, they have play dates.
Oh,
and I think that animals, like, you know, people have dog parks.
That's right.
Why don't we have cat parks? Like I guess because the
cat. Do they like it?
Well,
do they hang out?
They do.
Okay.
They play hard.
Oh.
Yeah. But see, if you don't like socialize them, then they get all weird and then bitchy when they find another cat. But so I think
that's
we need.
So interesting.
This could be a whole other business.
I love that you're like questioning, like, why do we do this?
Oh yeah. Well,
that's awesome. I
mean, with her, I've seen. When I say her, I'm referring to my cat who's here with us, and she's doing that.
She's kneading.
She's kneading, and
she's making bread.
It's so cute. She's purring too, I think. Wait, can you hear her?
Mm-hmm. She's really sweet. She's got lovely color.
I wonder if I can get the mic down to her so people can. Hold on. I'm freaking her out.
She immediately stopped.
She immediately stopped. She knew I was invading her privacy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's oftentimes I wonder why do we do things this way in my business, as I'm sure you've come across this as well. It can be frustrating when you're proposing alternate ways of doing things and thinking. But you know what I've learned is that, you know, there are some people who have the brain to, I guess, for lack of better explanation, maybe I don't have not able to articulate better, but thinking outside the box in terms of, and then there are people who are just really good at following directions, like maybe better than the person who can think outside the box, right? And so it's not fair to expect that everyone can see things the way you see them, unless you really have, like, through trial and error, proved it and worked out all the bits and bots for other people to believe that it's possible. But it is frustrating when you see something, you feel like you see it clearly in a new way. And I mean, no one else is just buying into this.
Yeah, I feel like there's actually a lot more blinders up on people these days because of the stress of current situations, and that just makes them
like they've got their blinders on.
Yeah, they're just not able to, like,
they're in fight or flight.
Yeah.
And your vision literally narrows in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your peripheral?
Yeah, you're just you're focused and you're just not. Yeah, so I have a lot of empathy for that with folks, and I think, not to be manipulative, but
do it.
I think
be manipulative.
I think you need to plan for that when you're working with people or you're trying to make something happen. You actually have to know that that is the case. Exactly what you just said is, like, not everybody is going to be on your wavelength, so you have to actually appease to what they care about in order to help them.
I know, but don't you ever get sick of like with business and whatnot, having to spend so much time gathering facts and information and all this stuff when you just kind of know how something kind of innately or on a basic level or intuitively, like, works because you've seen it and you believe it, but you have to then spend most of your time proving it to other people through analytics and whatnot.
Yeah, but like, especially in my work where it actually takes physical and mental exertion to do things that I'm trying to inspire them to do, and knowing how much people are blocked by stuff. You know, like, there's only so far that you can push people. Like, you either inspire them and you show them the value and they keep coming back because the value is, it's worth the fight, or you move on and you do something different. Like, yeah, it's really, I thought for a long time it was a sure shot that when I started the company, I actually thought, I was like, people would say to me, like, oh, you're just doing that because you work in the music industry and you can host shows and you can do all these things and it's really easy for you. And I was like, no, anybody can do that.
Yeah.
And then I realized not everybody can do that because they've got their own things about whatever.
Maybe we should use, because I've said that too. You know, you can host this show too. Maybe we should use reverse psychology and that would work. You know what? This isn't for you. I don't think you
exclusive
can
club.
It.
Yeah, you got to actually pay $200 to host a show.
So
we should do that. That would be great.
That's a new business model. You're welcome. Yeah, you heard it here first on a Chat with Heart podcast.
Oh my god.
Hey, if you had if money wasn't an issue, you were independently wealthy. Like, would you find yourself just writing all the time, or what do you think you would do?
My vision for the future, maybe like 15, 20 years in the future. What am I at now? 46. So like 66.
Same here. Like 79?
78. My birthday's in November. I'm a Scorpio.
Cool. Okay.
I think I have envisioned myself like almost like old woman on the hill, like at the farm, and hosting retreats, experiences, facilitation, concerts, just like kind of staying in a place and creating a beautiful environment where I can receive people with the utmost of peace and welcomeness, and just like, I just want to create beautiful experiences for people. I want to create comfort and joy and love for people.
I just had a vision. You want to hear it? Based on what you just said.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here.
Okay, great.
And then we'll have a route. Like,
oh my God.
We'll have a route.
Yeah.
And we'll sell it, of course. I mean, people are, but like, we will we'll facilitate this route. People want to come visit Nova Scotia. Well, you got to hit up Cape Breton.
Yeah.
And your place will be the hub for that. And this will be the hub for the North Shore folks, because we'll have some places for rent and experiences here, songwriting included, house concerts, blah, blah, blah. And there'll be, I'm sure, someone in the South Shore
and
Halifax and Yarmouth. Yeah. And let's get them around.
I love that idea.
So why don't we just do that?
I love that idea. I think we take it for granted here that we know how to even get into that mode.
Well, you and I have been doing this for a long. Yeah, like we've been doing. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah. We've practiced.
We practice, and they're definitely coming. From the Maritimes too. Like hospitality was definitely in my mother and my grandmother's specialties. Yeah. I've got the china.
Yeah, you just made a killer meal.
Yeah, thanks.
Wow. And I mean, I think it's just really special in this day and age to remind people how that feels, especially if they've never even experienced it before. There's all these kids growing up in situations where maybe Donald Trump grew up in the situation where there's just no special care taken to create an experience that makes you feel loved in a way that you're completely safe and you have no obligations and you can just be. Yeah. Like, I think it's really helpful to remind people how to do that.
I remember when my mom said to me one time as an adult, and it was a shift in our relationship, because I really felt like I did owe her something, but she said to me, I don't know what I was saying to her, but she was like, you don't owe me anything. And I was like, oh,
wow.
Okay.
That's actually really lovely for a mom to say.
Yeah, and it surprised me. I don't know why. I guess because I felt like I did. But anyway, it was liberating, and maybe it was that reverse psychology thing she was doing on me, where she was, because now I certainly
now you're questioning.
I do anything for the woman. But I don't feel like I owe her anything. But the things that I do for her because I want to. It comes from a more authentic place. Yeah. Whereas maybe it didn't always, and so I like what you said there. And this is what these chats with heart and podcast chats. I know we can have these chats like without being on a podcast, but
it's the intention behind it.
Yeah, these are meant to also be put out there, and hopefully, is reverberate a word?
Yep.
Okay. Does it mean what I think it means?
Yep.
Okay, good. Reverberate, because I've been using a lot today, and I don't know if I've ever used it again.
Toss a stone, waves roulette.
Okay,
got it.
Yeah, that's what they're meant to be. That's why I asked you to come back on.
Yeah, I thought it was too much, but I appreciate it.
It's not. It's never enough with you. It's never enough. Like
enough with you.
This is the first time too. I don't have any questions prepared.
Well, we've known each other too long, I think, to do that.
Yeah, and I didn't want it to be small talk. Was there any small talk?
Cat toys.
I thought that was completely appropriate.
That was important information.
Yeah. Right, Olivia? I don't know why I call her Olivia. It's Olivia.
What's the Portuguese pronunciation?
Olivia. Oh, is it? You don't know. You're not Where are your people from?
Back to the 1700s Scotland.
Oh, wow.
Don't ask me. I actually get made fun of for all of my accents, so no.
Really? You have an accent?
No. I mean, I can't do accents.
Oh, can't do any?
I mean,
they
all just turn into one accent.
Oh,
gotcha. With that being offensive.
I would have pegged you as an Aussie, even though you've told me where your family's from.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't know why.
I almost moved to Australia.
Right, with an X. Yeah. I'm glad you didn't. Okay, well, I think we should go and
do other things.
Yeah, we're going to get the Ouija board out.
Oh, God.
You said you wanted to.
Yeah, no, I know, but now I think we've summoned things.
You know what? We've tried in this house. It's never worked.
You've tried in this house?
We have. Mike and Kristen, who've been on the podcast, and we tried to summon a woman named Jessie, who's from Cape Breton, who passed away.
Wow.
Jessie did not talk to us.
Okay.
There have been some other trials. My friend Lola, who's also on the podcast. Basically, anyone who comes to do the podcast, we try to use the Ouija board. And
I can't believe I just said that and you actually have one.
Yeah. I do. Never worked for me. Never. I've had. We used to make them as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So okay. Well, let's go do that. The guys are. Who knows what they're doing?
Yeah.
There's dessert.
Yeah, I'm excited for dessert.
I'm sure you'll be back. What do you want to plug? Do you want to plug anything before we go? Is there anything that you? It doesn't have to be businessy, but it can be. It could be like, is there anyone you want to tell that you love or something?
Oh my God, everyone.
Oh,
I've felt nothing but love in the last few months for people who have supported me.
People love you.
Oh, that's just the nicest. I think it's just like so reciprocal. Like I was saying to somebody recently that I've felt like it's such an honor to be welcomed into the world of artists because I never considered myself an artist.
Oh, but you are.
But somebody recently, when I was in Los Angeles before the fires, who I met, I was describing sort of like what I did and like all this stuff. And he's like, oh, you are an artist. And I was like, this is a person who does not know me. And just called me out on something. And I kind of like received it in a way that I hadn't before. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And so maybe I'm just going to call it myself. When I come into my artist era.
Do it. I get it though. Like I know that I know I'm an artist. I do arty things, but inside I still feel not. I don't get it. I'm just like that's that thing that other people do that I admire, and I feel more like label myself as an entrepreneur, I suppose. But then Andy Warhol said business is art or something like that.
I'm deeply inspired by the incredible ways that people move through life. Like that's my shout out is just like, I mean, I'm just even watching the Blue Jays right now and I'm just like so inspired by the swagger and the just absolute balls out way that they're just playing the World Series. And, you know, that is art to me. Like that attitude of being the underdog and walking into a situation and like just owning it, you know, that it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, shout out to just like kind of stepping into a situation and making it your own in a very creative and artistic and authentic way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Slow. I don't want to say goodbye to you. Oh, I don't want to say goodbye to you. Welcome to the Heartbeat Hotline, 1-902-669-4769. I'm the host of A Chat with Heart podcast, Christina Martin, and I'm so excited you called. Leave me your question, a suggestion for the podcast, or a comment about this episode. Please be aware your message may be used on the podcast and social media. Tell me your name, where you're calling from, and it's also fine if you want to remain anonymous. Thanks for listening. Have a great fucking day. Hey, thanks for listening to A Chat with Heart, produced by me, Christina Martin. Co-produced and engineered by my partner in life and sound, Dale Murray. Dale's not just a wizard with knobs, he's also a killer singer-songwriter, session musician, and music producer. Go snoop around his world at dalemurray.ca. The podcast theme song, Talk About It, and I Don't Want to Say Goodbye to You were written by me and recorded by Dale. Want to support what we do? You can snag CDs, vinyl, digital music, and some weirdly delightful merch like custom puzzles and temporary tattoo packs over on my Bandcamp. If you're into keeping indie art alive or just want good karma, become a monthly or yearly member on my Patreon. It's a platform that helps creators get paid to keep making stuff we love. I swear by it. Sign up, free or paid, at patreon.com/Christina Martin. If this podcast made you laugh, cry, think, or rage text your best friend, do me a solid, share it, rate it, review it, and hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. And to all my little heartbeat listeners, stay weird, stay tender, and I'll catch you next time.